Welcome to Product AMA, your daily online Ask Me Anything. We started Product AMA to give those passionate or curious about product management a daily break, something to look forward to.
We have Heidi Ram, a very well-known executive recruiter for product management in the GTA. She has placed product leaders and rising stars with an array of well-known companies in Toronto and has been at Recruitment not for 5, not for 10, but for more than 20 years. I've been connected with her for quite some time, and if you follow her on LinkedIn, you'll know that she brings a quirky and creative aspect to her inspirational posts. Heidi, thank you for joining us today. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us what your focus is these days, as well as tell us about what's behind those creative LinkedIn posts.
Well, first of all, let me begin by saying thank you for having me. It's such a great opportunity to just keep talking about product and through the lens of recruitment. And so I'm honored to be here with you all today and to help us think about or maybe reshape our thinking about product management and recruitment. So a bit about me. So I've been with our firm for 20 years. And yes, that's right. I'm a career recruiter. And I focus on product management. In our firm, we have practices. So that really gives us the opportunity to get deep in certain functions. And we found that to be a really a valuable thing that our clients really like, is that we can speak to particular functions with some confidence and with broad market knowledge. And so that's what I do. So I work with candidates and some clients, and I spend my whole day talking to product people, product managers, product leaders, CPOs, VPs, directors, individual contributors, designers, product owners, BAs wanting to be product people. You know, this is the group I talk with every day, all day, over and over again. And my journey to LinkedIn and my LinkedIn posts really began a couple of years ago when I really began noticing just really, like, I was following some really interesting content, and I really valued some of the things that people would share and insight that wasn't, obvious or readily available in the market. So as I began thinking about this, I thought, well, I think there's some value in sharing some of the learnings that I glean from what I do, being in that unique position of talking with, engaging with clients, hiring leaders, product leaders, as well as working with candidates, because there's some things that really do resonate across large groups of people. And as you mentioned, I am a little quirky. So of course, I wanted anything that I post to be authentic to who I am. I want it to, when I post, I want it to feel like I'm talking with you and to you and maybe on your behalf for you. And so I always appreciate the feedback or the notes of encouragement when someone says, hey, that really resonated with me. I do want to stop commuting from Markham to downtown or whatever it is that I'm talking about at that time. So thank you for considering the post inspirational and quirky, and I'll try to keep that going today.
For sure. And to those of you who haven't seen Heidi's posts yet, you can see her scribbling on the whiteboard or scratching on the notepad, putting all those opportunities out there for all the levels of, all experience levels in product management, be it a product leader or be it someone who's, just starting their journey in product management. So thank you for that, Heidi. It's like not only inspirational, but also like, funny to see, creative to see on my LinkedIn post, on my LinkedIn feed at least. All right, let's get started with question number 1. Okay. And to those of you who joined just now, feel free to post your questions in the Zoom chat and I'll be picking them soon. All right, Heidi, I would like to start off with a question that I have always been curious about and wanted to decipher. What is the role of a product management recruiter and how is it different from an employer's own recruitment efforts?
Okay. So that's a really good first question, because it's a very foundational question to probably a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So there's a few specific ways that what I do as a third-party product recruiter is different than, let's say, a tech company's internal recruitment team. And to sort of enter into these differences, we want to think about my role as someone who is engaged by a client to do something very specific. So we are engaged to, and I'm engaged to do a very specific kind of a search of an individual for whom the hiring leader has either a problem they're trying to solve or sees an opportunity for growth. And they're interested in a specific skill set. So think of Heidi as like a sniper. I'm not out to talk to the masses and to all the people who could do the job, because there's many who could do the job. My goal becomes to meet the requirements of my client and find the person who is doing the job today who they have asked me to find. So I'm very narrow and specific in my goal. By contrast, an internal recruiter, and as I go into these examples of internal recruiters, I do want to sort of put it out there that I'm referring to generalities. I know that there's lots of different flavors and styles of internal recruitment, internal recruiters. Some internal recruiters function a little bit like a third-party recruiter. But I'm going to speak in general terms. So in general terms, an internal recruiter is not as sniper focused in outreach recruitment. They're taking a broad approach with inbound applicants, with inbound candidates, because most companies will engage in some kind of marketing efforts or postings or different tools that will attract applicants to their site or their LinkedIn or whatever their tool is of choice. And so they're looking through a broad community of candidates who are responding to them. Because of this difference being I'm going out to try to find the person who my clients engaged us to find, I'm able to do things that maybe sometimes an internal recruiter can't do, like contacting their competitor directly, or people who are part of their ecosystem, where it wouldn't be really looked upon very favorably if organizations were known to be recruiting from one another. But I'm a neutral third party. I can do it. So this helps a company have access to talent that maybe they wouldn't otherwise, because those people may not be applying directly to a company. One of the other ways that we're really different is that getting to the point that I mentioned where we are practice centric. So I spend all my time talking to product people, or most of my time is spent talking to product people. I have the greatest viewpoint of a large cross-section of candidates, what they earn, what's going to motivate them to make a job change, why they might be attracted to an opportunity. As a product manager would be looking at an opportunity. I have sort of access to lots of information and research about one very critical function of a company. So this is tremendous. This is a value, right, to companies and to candidates, actually, whereby an internal recruiter, they're often, not always, but often, they're generalists. So this morning, internal recruiter number one, they were recruiting Java developers. And in the afternoon at around 3 o'clock, they got to get those customer success candidates happening. And now they're working on, whatever. They're recruiting for multiple roles. They need to know a little bit about many things, but I specialize. Side thought about that, the world of product management, for someone who doesn't often recruit for that function, can be a very confusing world. And one of the interesting observations that many folks make who try to recruit for product managers. And I talk with, recruiters who will reach out to me just for, to say hi or perspective. And they admit, one of their biggest challenges is figuring out what makes a product manager and how are they different from project management or product marketing. This is a common curiosity. So anyways, I digress. So that's one big way. So I focus, otherwise they're broad. And then the other thing is that the other big difference is that, so I am, this is my full-time thing. I earn a living doing this job. I'm a working professional. This is what I do. Sometimes internal recruiters have a it's a broad path into the function because the barrier to entry is low, okay? You don't have to have a particular anything to one day become a recruiter. In fact, sometimes, when I talk to people, I say, hey, how did you get into recruiting? Tell me your story. They'll say, well, I met someone and they said to me, you know what? You should be a recruiter. Have you ever thought of being a recruiter? And then the person says, well, I do like talking to people. Bada bing, bada boom, you're a high-tech recruiter. 2 years ago, I met a girl. She was actually one of our clients. Well, her boss was our client. And we were working with her as part of this process. And she was their internal recruiter. And 6 months earlier, she had been a bartender. True story, people, true story. So because the barrier to entry to this industry is low, what that means is that, the skills are different, internal to external, right? And many times people who get into recruitment internally, it's a pathway to what they really want to do, which is to get into HR. They want to be a human resources manager, and part of that skill or sort of understanding needs to come from spending some time in the trenches doing recruitment. But they really long to work on the HR side, which is more about managing the humans, right? Managing your resources, making sure that you're caring and loving and feeding those people, that, there's things about benefits and hearing grievances and all of those things that are very important to a company once people join and become a human resource. And so sometimes internal recruiters, it's just the job they do today, but it's not the job they're going to do in 5 years.
Awesome. That's a great overview, and really appreciate you sharing that. And I see a lot of questions around, the current environment, and stay tuned. We have a section on that dedicated to, asking questions on that. So stay tuned and keep the questions coming in for Heidi. I'll be taking them up in a bit. Heidi, when you look at resumes, LinkedIn profiles, or whenever you're interacting with candidates, what qualities or experience stand out for you in the candidates you are looking for? And how does that change depending on the seniority of the search?
Okay. LinkedIn, resumes, and when I connect with people, right?
Right, that's right.
Okay, so I'm going to break it down. Because at each stage of at each of those 3 stages of the journey to a job, let's call it a roadmap. The roadmap to your next role. Someone like myself may be engaging with you. First touch point might be LinkedIn. If you haven't been referred to me through someone, I'm probably, or if I haven't heard about you, because I'm always listening, what are people saying about people and who's good out there? It might be through LinkedIn. So to think about an effective LinkedIn profile, I want you to enter into the user persona who might be looking at LinkedIn profiles, whether it's myself or really anybody looking for someone like you. This is very important because this is that first piece. And there's sort of two groups of candidates actually out there. One group of candidates will say, I don't care about LinkedIn. I don't even really update it. In fact, it's not even updated. I haven't been on that thing for, since my last job. And they don't realize that is actually, it has become the number one recruitment tool for both third-party search firms as well as generally internal recruiters. So it's very important. Your LinkedIn profile is very important. Then there's the other camp. And I also want to dispel this myth, which is, I don't have a resume because I only use LinkedIn. So just go to LinkedIn and that's good enough. What I've got up there, that's who I am, and that's my resume as well. It's all of me. That's how I present myself to everybody. Okay. So let's think about now the person looking at LinkedIn, the user persona. So we are in a time where none of us have enough time, okay? Think about those people, myself or whoever, who are hiring and looking for someone like you. They're time starved because they're running a business and they don't have as many people on staff because they just did a downsizing or 2 or 3. If they downsized someone internally, they probably let go their internal recruiters or HR people or people who would help them do this job. So they don't have a lot of time to spend on LinkedIn. Speaking now for myself. So now, what am I doing? Well, I am now just as important today as it was in December. I'm trying to take amazing, extra good care of every client we have, working extra hard on behalf of those clients who have engaged our services, while also fielding a higher than average number of people just wanting to connect for various reasons, to let me know that they're available for advice on the resume, just for advice in general, some words of encouragement, whatever. So none of us have the time that we had when we first began the year. So now imagine these user personas going through LinkedIn. What are they doing? And this is where what needs to be on there needs to become really razor sharp. The user persona going through LinkedIn may be doing so after hours when they are already exhausted after a long day. If they're a company business owner running their business, or for me, interviewing and actually having conversations with people during business hours. So most of my LinkedIn is happening, some of you know, Saturday mornings, right? Or early in the morning or later in the evening. So think of that exhausted person, myself, or a CEO, founder, chief product officer. We're looking at volume. We're doing keyword searches. We're getting our list of people that come up. These people might be a fit, and we're going quickly, creating a list of people we're going to reach out to start the next step of the process. So therefore, that LinkedIn profile really needs to be carefully curated content and as specific as possible to give the reader, the viewer, the opportunity to quickly figure out, are they aligned to the problem that I need someone to solve? I've got this problem I need solved. Are they a fit? The reader is trying to figure out, what is the product they're working on? What is the likelihood that they've actually done something that I need them to do? Have they actually been successful launching anything, or did they just spend a lot of time trying? Who would the user be of that product? Is it a technical user or a business user? All of these product-related questions and content, the easier you help someone understand what you do, the easier it is for someone to say, okay, if I have time to talk to 4 people tomorrow, I want this person to be one of them. That's what you want someone thinking about you. I've got minimal time. I've got time for 5 phone calls this week on Friday. I want this person in that phone call list. That's what you want someone thinking about you. Gone are the days of shrouding in mystery. Oh, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to tell people what I do. If you're not an advocate for yourself, telling people what you do and the great job that you have done, and communicating the scope of the work that you do and the value that you bring or have been bringing to your last employer or your current employer? Who's going to do that for you? Who's that champion on LinkedIn saying, actually, even though they did a really lousy job with their LinkedIn profile, this is someone you want to talk to? Nobody. You're there standing alone. Okay? So that's why it's so important to put enough time into LinkedIn that it really communicates something about what you do. Okay? Also, I'm going to mention something, controversial or not. Your picture should look like you. I hope I look like me in my picture, pretty close. But if it's something that you took maybe 30 years ago, think about modernizing. Think about good light. This, of course, if you're a UX UI designer, forget everything I've just said, and you just be you. You show us that creative person who you are. But if you're just a regular product person, good light, smiling, eye contact, that goes a long way. So then we get on to the resume part. What am I looking for in a resume? Well, again, the resume now becomes that part in the process where it was kind of like a teaser on LinkedIn. I had enough to know I want to talk with this person. I think they're relevant to a search that I'm working on. But now I want to know on their resume, I want to understand product story. I want to understand your accomplishments. I want some more detail. I'm looking for metrics. I'm looking for your use of product management language. Never underestimate product people, that your language is so powerful because product management has its own language. I don't think I have to tell you what that language is. Let's talk about it. It's roadmap, Scrum, Agile, release, MVP, user experience, delightful experience, stickiness, you know the words. This is language exclusive to your function, or sort of exclusive. It's a part of your function. And one of the reasons why this is so important is because if we think about that user persona of the hiring leader, okay? If the hiring person is a chief product officer, they often really want people who are into product. They're building a product culture. That maybe they were the one hired to shift the business from being engineering-led to being product-led. And so these things become important. If you're a product manager and you're not using product language on your resume, is that CPO going to be likely to say, you know what, this person really resonates with me. I think this is one of my people. I want to meet this person who's my people, right? So you want to resonate with that. Next, the other reason why it's important is because let's say, because Toronto is a startup tribe, right? Lots of startups. It's not unusual that the person who is going to be perhaps hiring the very first product manager or product leader is that engineering founder, that person who was the visionary. And they have been owning this product. It's their baby. It's their baby. And now finally they've got some venture money. Even in this climate, someone gave them millions of dollars. Can you believe it? To build a business. And now maybe they're being told by the people with the money, we want you to hire a product manager. So now they have to release this thing. Who are they going to be likely to release it to and feel really good about considering for that role? Someone who doesn't talk like a product manager? Is that going to be the person whose resume they say, yeah, I want to meet this person? Or someone who's talking product and how they took something from ideation to market launch and scaled it from an MVP to a blah, 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 whatever, you figure it out. This is the language that's going to excite that CEO founder who's going to say, I think this person might be the person who's going to take my baby and grow it. So that's why these are important. And because it's important to my clients, it's important to me. I mean, quite frankly, I meet people. So sometimes I will say, you know what? Love you, can't stand the resume, let's go. Because I've got such a great relationship with that person that I'm just going to tell him, you know what? I think dear CEO founder, I think you need to really meet this person. Trust me, you need to meet this person. If I have that kind of a relationship, the resume becomes less important. Sometimes, sometimes we do have those relations and they'll say, okay, because you said so, I'm going to do it. But oftentimes, especially if it's a brand new client, your resume is not only representing you, but guess what? You're representing me, because they took a chance on engaging our firm. And now I'm there saying, guess what? I'm going to help you build a product team. And I'm going to present, I'm not going to be a machine gun mama here showing you 50 candidates. I'm a sniper. I'm going to show you 4 or 5 who meet the requirements. Let's use that as a starting point, because usually the hire is in that first round. So that those precious resumes are part of my story with them, right? So that's why sometimes I'll get into painful detail about resumes with candidates, because I'm doing it to help you, to help my client, and also to help me. So I'm looking for product language. I'm looking for accomplishments and metrics. Last thing I'll say about resumes, I'm looking, get ready for this, aesthetically attractive, okay? What does that mean? Well, this is a can of worms. Clean, to the point, bullet points. We're not looking for lots of photographs, cartoons, animations, many fonts, many colors, things, if they're not underlined, they're in italics. Let's get to the point and focus on what you've actually done, and not these distraction elements that, let's face it, the best product managers in the world don't really do. So let's start to look on paper as good as you are, and let your story stand on its own.
All right. That's a pretty comprehensive overview of LinkedIn profiles and resume, and I'm sure our audience is learning a lot. And like, I really liked your point about being to the point, and refining your resumes, introducing that product language. And as a personal experience, like, keep taking feedback from people in your network on your resumes, and one day your resume will look like something. You don't need to worry about it then. You just need to update it, as per the job you're applying to, but the entire format will fall into place. And we're getting a lot of questions, and with the limited time I have, I'm going to combine a couple of questions that I see here, and ask you that, I'm sure you might have been reached out to by so many people who want to break into product, like
Yes.
people coming from other industries, like, we have someone asking about CPG, and also, like, people with no PM experience.
Yes.
What advice do you give to them so that they're marketable and credible?
Okay. I'm going to do my very best to answer this with some kind of a high level way of thinking about this, as well as some tactical things. And as we enter into this part of the discussion, I need you to know that there's no easy answer, and there's no quick fix. And what works for one person doesn't always work for everyone. And why and how we'll never fully understand. But know this, that keep trying, keep on the journey. And there is a job for you somewhere. Okay, there is. And so I want to talk now, you asked about people who want to break into product, maybe from a different industry. I think you suggested CPG.
CPG, yeah, that's yes. A question that we've got in the chat window.
Amazing. So for anyone not in product who wants to enter into it, my first advice is always start to enter into the world of product management and where it's living and where those people are gathering, and begin to become a student of the business. It becomes less about the candidate communicating, I want to be a product manager. Hi, I'm looking to be a product manager. Hi, I'm interested in product management opportunities. I want to get into product. I want to break into product. And it becomes more about becoming a student and listening and learning the language, learning the problems they're solving, learning about this function. And I often will point people to, one of the best resources, are first of all, communities like this one, okay? So if you're breaking into product, go and listen to every single previously posted video, because all of that collective knowledge and learning will help you further understand the function. Go onto YouTube and start looking at some tech TO events where they break down perhaps certain industries. Enter into these formats, and if someone is willing to have a virtual coffee conversation with you, don't think that's the end all be all, and that's a very tenuous thing to ask someone to invest a lot of time early on. But if someone says yes, incredible. If they say no or they don't have time right now, don't take it as a personal offense. Move on and try to find someone else to connect with. They just weren't meant to connect with you at that time, okay? And then the other thing is, I have been following Mo Ali for many years, and I'm just in complete awe and respect to the guy and product faculty. What a wonderful foundation and platform he has created to help people in this transition. Now, this is, I'm not endorsing this. He hasn't asked me to say that, but I just genuinely, as a recruiter, I just, what, good for you. And he's doing something and helping. And so all of these collective tools and platforms are what you want to start to enter into. The other piece that I always challenge people to think about is, so let's be real here. If you've never been a product manager and you want to become one, now is going to be quite a challenging time to do that, because you're competing with people who are already doing that, who have some success and are available. So it's going to be harder. So therefore, you want to think about what every business leader thinks about, which is value. How can we add value to our business? How can we grow our business? How can you add value to my business? Because, tech companies aren't not-for-profits where they're just going to hire a bunch of people just to give them the chance to be a product manager because then we all feel good. They're actually for-profit, having to make a profit, are accountable to people with money or other people, and they want to see value in every hire. Value of a hire is going to be extremely critical in this economic time. So CPG person. So depending on what you were doing in CPG, you're going to, I would recommend, do some research. Who are all of the companies who make software for the industry that you have come from? Were you a user of software? Were you using any business applications that were specific to your company that were, CPG related? Look up who those vendors were. Start to dig in and learn their language and how they add value to the companies that you just came from or are working for, and start to craft that message and that soundbite. Because think about how powerful it would be, okay? So if I were a chief product officer of a company who sells to Nabisco, and someone messages me directly and says, "Hi there, I work at Nabisco and I use your software product," or I use software applications that do da 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 da. Sounds like it's similar to what you're doing, and I'd love to have a meeting with you to talk about how someone who's on the client side of your application derives value out of the solutions that you sell. And I think I could actually help you communicate that value to the other customers you're trying to reach, or whatever. Or I could help you, I was actually using your application while I was working at Nabisco, and I can tell you, one of the greatest frustrations about using your application was XYZ. Would you be open to having a coffee with me and talking about how maybe I could add value in your next generation or next version of product that you're going to be launching, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the message is, I'm just pulling these things out of the sky. the bigger lesson here is, let's think about how can you add value to a company? Because that person who then you reach out to, there may be an increased likelihood that they're going to say, you know what? I want to talk to you. You know what? I'm curious. I'm open to a 15-minute phone call. It becomes less about what you want out of that employer company and more about what you can do for them. Because that's why employers hire people, for what you can do for them. So think about that. Think about those industries. Where do you have subject matter expertise? The other piece then, which is another hard part, is it's most likely an exercise that you will have to do yourself unless there are recruiters who specialize in your industry, who also do tech. So the reality is that I work for a firm whose services are engaged, which means companies pay us money to do the work. And when companies pay us the money to do the work, guess what? They're the boss. And they're the ones who steer who I'm going to be talking with. Within the journey of a search, of course, my role is to help my client make the best possible hiring decision by looking at really a good cross-section of the market, which may include some outlier candidates different from the initial requirements, but people who I believe, based on what I know of the client and know of the candidate, where I think there's alignment, okay? But they're ultimately paying us for that service. It becomes very difficult for a recruiter to help a candidate reinvent themselves because not all clients are willing to pay for that. They're already getting those candidates applying directly to their website. And they chose not to hire someone from that group. They wanted a sniper to go after a specific skill set, often someone who is already experienced, okay? So if you're trying to reinvent yourself and you're knocking on the doors of recruiters and you're feeling frustrated that no one's listening to you or they're ghosting you and they're not talking to you, sadly, this is normal. If they don't have a search for which you fit the requirements, okay? So you might have to apply to companies directly. You might have to apply to a tech company. And here's a thought as you engage in that journey. Your first entry point might not be product. And that's okay. Because most product managers didn't have an entry point of product. They got in at customer success. They got in sales. They got hired as a pre-sales person often, well, not often, sometimes, many times, because of subject matter expertise. The number of times, a big software company selling something that's enterprise software, trying to go after enterprise accounts says, you know what? Everyone in our company is a tech software person. We need a subject matter expert. We need someone from the CPG industry who talks well and communicates. And we're going to give that person a chance to be a pre-sales person. They're going to be demoing our product all over the world. And they're going to be talking to the future user, the customer, in their own language, so that those people say, you know what? I want to buy software from these guys. That stepping stone into a software company, no matter what the role, yeah, you want product, but you know what? You got hired by a tech company. Congratulate yourself. Be the best you can be. Pump it out. Add value in that function. And then once you've added value in whatever function you were hired for, and you've got a fan base in your employer, you're going to say, you know what? I've actually been following that product organization, and I would really love to understand, are there opportunities to move into product? This is often how it begins. So keep your mind open. Look for opportunities to move forward, even if it's not necessarily product as an entry level position, okay? Because you don't know where that road's gonna lead one day, okay?
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, like head to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of videos and a lot of product leaders talking about different concepts in product management. And I think that was the vision of starting this community, to keep people engaged and help them learn. We do have some more time, and I see there are a lot of questions about what is happening right now. The job market is a little tensed, and in this final section, I would like to focus on that. Shifting gears to the COVID situation, and a lot of companies have frozen hiring. They have laid off employees, and the audience here is asking questions around skills, or maybe what can we do? How do we reach out to people? So, what advice do you have for product managers who are looking for a job right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. So let's talk about that, and I'll preface that by saying there's no easy answers, and what works for one doesn't work for everyone, but I'm gonna try to encourage you. So I'll begin with, again, the overarching mindset. If you're not working and you're trying to find your next role, it's very important for you to, first of all, know that you are employable. You are employable. You will be working again. And while this is a very scary time, it's also important to really rest in the fact that you are not your job. You are more than your title. You are more than your employer, and you're more than the number on your paycheck. Okay? So rest in that. When you're done resting, you get to work. So there's an old saying, and the old saying goes like this: it's a full-time job to get a job. And that whoever said that must have said that at a time kind of like this, where we're now in an employer's market. The law of supply and demand has shifted. There's more people on the market, which means that there's more competition for jobs. And which means that as a candidate, we want to start to become very intentional about everything that we're doing, and curating, and engaging where there's opportunity to engage. So what do I mean by that? So first of all, there's any successful job search has 3 legs on that stool. Okay? So I'm a recruiter. I'm one of those legs on that stool, one of the ways that one might get a job. But did you know that most people don't get employment through recruiters? That's a fact. Most people don't. And my ability to help someone actually get hired entirely stems from having a client who has signed our contract and has asked me to find someone like you. If I don't have that, it gets really hard to be able to help you find a job. I can help in other ways sometimes, but we'll get to that. But what are the other 2 legs of that stool? Because your job may not come from a recruiter. Well, the way most people secure employment is through their personal network, the good old-fashioned way. It's people who you know, who you've worked for, who you've worked with, people who are part of your ecosystem. These could be partners, resellers, systems integrators, companies you're API integrating into, that whole chain. It could be all of those people who are part of your world. So it's important that you make sure that you communicate to people that you're available. And when we're communicating and when we're engaging, we want to be careful that we don't get sucked into this black hole of commiserating about how terrible it is, or about COVID, and about boo-hoo. Because while that is that emotional part of us that everyone is struggling with in some way, we have to be mindful that we're now engaging with someone who is looking at us, thinking about us as maybe a future hire, or someone who they will put their name on a stamp of a referral. So always positive, always, hey, I'm circumstances have me, I'm open to opportunities right now. And I'm open to having coffee meetings. I'm open to talking with people and looking at great opportunities where I can add value, because I really want to make sure that I add value in the next role that I'm in. I really want to make sure that the next company I join, that it's a great fit, because I know that I'll be able to add value to their business problems and help them grow. This is the language. We're about adding value, and we're keeping ourselves open, and we're building trust and goodwill so that you are top of mind. When someone asks that person you just spoke with, hey, do you know anyone who does API product management? Because I've got people who, applicants, we've got people who have done this and that, but I need an API person. If you're that person, they might say, I actually do. And it's that positive, just always engaging and being opportunistic goes a long way. Now, when it comes to engaging with others, there's a few different ways that you can do that. I always suggest, first of all, two things about that. Number one, you want to make it easy for people to get to you, which goes back to the earlier point about LinkedIn, keeping it crisp, sharp, accomplishments, really nailing down someone's questions and they're asking, well, what do they do? What is the product? What have they done? But also making sure that your contact information is easily, readily available. It's okay to put your email address in the body of your LinkedIn, description of who you are. Make it easy for someone to reach you. Don't make it hard. When you are reaching out to other people, whether it is a recruiter or an employer or anybody, always, here's my phone number, here's my email address, here's my LinkedIn, and you know what? For the hell of it, here's my resume. You're in a job search. This is not the time to add in an extra step. Okay, get rid of the steps. Go for it. Go for it. Also, let's not underestimate how much easier it is to reach out to someone, an employer or a recruiter, directly through email as often as you can. If you've got one email address of a company, let's face it, you've got them all. First name dot last name at blah blah.com, first initial last name at blah blah.com. These are not, so you can do enough research to get an email address. This is what I do for a living. I try to get email addresses. Why don't you try it? It's not easy, but it's possible. And so that's always the fastest route to get someone's attention. Okay, so emailing directly employers and or recruiters. All right, so these are some practical things. Just another note of encouragement. It's hard, okay? And one of the things that I will sometimes remind myself, and we'll talk about it as a team in our firm, when we're in a search, so when we're on the opposite side of where you are, where we're having a hard time trying to find a candidate, you're now having a hard time trying to find a job. I remind myself of this one reality. You're one email away. You're one phone call away from finding the company who's going to hire you. That's true. Because one day it's going to be that one message that you sent, or that one message that you replied and said, you know what? I'm open to talking with you. That will be that moment that you will look back on next year and say, oh man, it was that one message. That was it. And look at a year ago, COVID. I can't even think about it now, but that was a year ago. And I want that for all of you. I want that for you. So that's why you're going to continue to work hard, because it is a full-time job to get a job. It really is. I do this full-time to get people to move from one job to another job. So yes, it is full-time, but you can do it. And every day is a new day to start again. This day is almost over, and tomorrow you're going to start again. You're going to start looking for companies you've never heard of. You're going to start looking in the US for companies that are based in the US who, guess what, because of the exchange rate, they might really value the reach out of a Canadian-based, willing to work remotely product person who is not going to cost them as much as the same person in Silicon Valley. Sorry to say it, but it's true. And you know, one of the things that I love to do is I love to, if I'm doing a catch-up call with a candidate, hey, I'm not calling because I've got a role, I just want to catch up. I always will ask, how did you land in this role? How did you end up there? Tell me, how did you get this great job? And it is shocking to me. Well, it shouldn't shock me. It's not shocking because I hear it so often, but I hear, and I always think, wow, good for you. When people say, I actually made a list of companies in the US that don't have an office in Canada and I messaged the chief product officer. Or I made a list of companies I really wanted to work for where I could understand how to improve their product and I messaged those hiring people. And I'm like, good for you. People do this, people. This happens. This actually is real life. Okay? So we're not gonna have any pity parties here, are we, gang? No. Tomorrow's a new day. No more pity party. You are one call or one email away from the job that you'll be working in next year. You'll have been there a year already. And that's what's going to happen.
Heidi, this has to be the first AMA even I'm taking down notes here. And I know we're almost out of time, but I have a go ahead from my organizers that we can go overboard for. So if you're up for it, we'll continue asking questions because we have a lot of questions from our guests. So Tara is asking an interesting question that given the market that we are in right now, should candidates consider lowering their expectations for salary? Because she's currently interviewing and she's saying that there are lower salaries than what has been seen in the past. So what do you advise on that front?
Yes, the money talk. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to put a few different things out there. So first of all, money is deeply personal. Everyone's financial situation is different. And you are in control of saying yes or declining an offer if they present an offer. You're in control of that. And you have to make decisions that are in the best interests of you and your family and all of the financial commitments that you need to meet. And so I'm very always nervous about saying, don't take more than this, or take, because I don't know your situation. And so I preface what I'm now going to say next with, only you can make these decisions. Now, product management salaries to begin with are all over the place. To the point that I did a six session segment on this last year. But the range of salaries is very wide for individual contributing product managers. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. Now, are we going to see in general salaries drop of product managers? We may. And for some companies, maybe not. It depends upon how specific the skill is that they require, which you possess, okay? Here's an example, and because I work in the world of very specific searches, let's just say you're a cybersecurity company. I know my colleague right now is looking at me. Let's just say you're a cybersecurity company and you need to hire a product manager who's done a specific type of cybersecurity, okay? A specific piece, not just any, I want to hire a cybersecurity person. I want this kind of a cyber, and they have to be in this city of America, okay? There's not that many of them. I know because I've looked. So is that salary is that employer going to suddenly be, reducing salaries by 20% because of COVID? Nope, probably not. But if it's a more generalized product role, where quite frankly, if you're not there, just move in the next person, they'll take over. And then then the next one, this is where it gets more gray, okay? Now, what is the question you want to ask yourself there's actually two questions before you even get to the money. You want to ask yourself two big questions. The first one is that a job I want to do? Because if you're looking at an opportunity and the money isn't really quite where you have been at, do you want to do the job? Because if the answer to that question is, you know what, no, I don't even want to do that job, then why are we even talking money? Okay? Because no amount of money, low or high or whatever, is going to make the pain of doing that dog of a job any easier. And that's actually going to infiltrate into your personal life. You're going to resent going there every day to do that job. The next question you want to ask yourself is this: is that the group of people I want to do the job with? Because if you want to do the job, but the people you've been engaging with are really not a group that you could see yourself laboring 8 to 12 to 14 to 16 hours a week, going to trade shows, staying in hotels, being with them 24/7, laboring on problems, getting their calls and texts at God knows what time because something didn't work for your critical anchor client. If that's not a group you want to labor with, what are we talking money for? Because again, that's going to be a hard job. You're going to be looking in 3 months, and that's also going to impact your personal life and who you are as a person. And you're more than your job, okay? So let's say you want to do the job, and let's say, yeah, I want to work with those people. Now we're to the money thing. The next thing you want to think about is, well, what about the job after this? How am I okay if I say yes to this salary and say yes to doing this job for these delightful people who I've met and I want to work with? You have to stay there and you have to meet the commitment that you said yes to. An employment agreement is actually a legal document. They're saying, yes, I'm going to pay you this much money. You're saying, yeah, and I'm going to do the job. So you have to stay long enough to do good work, or at least try hard to do good work. Okay, so you're going to say yes to that. So you're not going to be thinking about changing jobs if it doesn't work out. Can you imagine being there for a year earning that salary? And are you going to be okay with that, or will you always feel that grade of resentment? Next, what is it going to say for the next job after that? Because let's say you're making 130. Base salary as an individual contributing product manager. Let's say that's your base, 130. So you and I know that you are very highly paid as an individual contributor. You're not the max, but you're getting there. Like you're where people will kind of plateau. They earned up from 85, 90, 95, 100, 110, 120, ding, 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 ding. You're there, that's now where you are. If you take a job today at 100,000, give or take 5,000. You got some explaining to do one day, because your next employer is not going to make up the difference for your decision today. They're not going to say, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna really ramp it up and get you back to 130. They might, but maybe they don't. Maybe your next leg is now you're back to that 115, 120. So we cannot hold our future employers responsible for making up the difference of our choices that we, free will choice, are making today, because that's not fair, okay? You're gonna make a decision or not. Now, the other thing to think about, that's perspective here, is that I often place product people, including leaders, CPOs, VPs of product directors, and senior individual contributors who are not moving for more money. Many people in product don't move for the same or more money. Many will work for slightly less. Why is that? Because product people, there's something about product DNA. You are wired to solve problems. You are wired to build business. You are wired to drive growth. You are wired to look back on that roadmap and that baby MVP, that pilot, whatever it was back then, and to look at this beautiful thing that you have built. You're on that roadmap. It is you, you are it, you know, even though we know you're more than your work, but let's talk, you know, practically here. You know, this is where you are and you're building business. And that will often be the reason why a product manager will say yes to a role. Hey, it's 5,000 less, no problem. I have the chance to build something because right now I'm maintaining something and the best product managers don't want to maintain anything. They want to keep building, okay? So if you take a hit in base salary, it's okay. The bigger thing is, what is a story you're going to tell your next employer? The reason why, so you can say, I was earning 130 at the job over here, but I said yes to this role and I joined at 120, and I'll tell you why. Because I got really excited about the fact that that founder had chosen me out of a group of candidates who they had met with to take that baby from them and grow that business. I was the first product manager that person hired. They took a chance on me. They took a risk on me with their idea. And that opportunity was something that I had never had before. And that was worth the 10,000 difference to me. And that's why I said yes. So now I have that experience person who's interviewing me. And as I look at my career, I'm looking for opportunities to make a difference. I'm looking for the chance to build your business. What is that worth to you? Let's talk. What, you know, I'm looking to grow my career. I'm not going to go backwards. So let's talk about what you're hoping for me to do next. You know, how do you see me fitting in? What's the problem you need me to solve? Do you think I'm the one who can solve it? You know, I think I can. So, you know, so having those conversations is sort of the way to try to move this. I know it's very vague, but salary is a big topic, and it's never about any one number. I'm always nervous of a candidate who says this. If I say, what are your salary expectations? Where are you hoping to land next? I got to make 115. I can't work for less than 115. Okay. All right. And why is that? Nope. I've looked at the market and I know my worth. My worth is 115. How do you know your worth? Like, how do you know? Because I'm actually talking to your competition. I'm actually talking to the companies hiring people like you. So the lens that I'm looking from, you know, these glasses that I'm wearing and what I'm looking at, it's a pretty broad range and it's all over the place. So because then I always wonder, are you trying to tell me that what is more important to you than building a product and building a business of something that in this economy could actually thrive and survive? Is 115 more important to you than that opportunity? So if they're offering you 112.5, it's like, it's a showstopper, forget it. 110, forget it. Okay, well, I'll try, we can see, but the more rigorous people are, the harder it is. It's always hard, right?
Yep. Awesome. And like, to anyone who's looking to get some insights on salaries, I got a report, a survey which was done with product people in Toronto, and a lot of product leaders and product managers were interviewed and surveyed, and it tells you like the range of salaries and the demographics within the GDA. So if you want the access, just connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to share that report with you. Heidi, we're almost out of time. One last quick question, before we wrap up. It's more of like, you know, any good amusing story around you getting feedback or giving feedback to a candidate.
Oh, I've got stories. I wasn't, oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to share a story.
Let's hear your favorite one then.
Okay, well, I have many stories, but one of the beautiful, one of my gifts is the gift of forgetting sometimes those things that I should probably never forget, which includes sometimes crazy stories. Okay, so we had done a search once upon a time. Once upon a time, we did a search for a company who had a set of products, and they were in a time of their product hiring where they wanted to move from being really engineering led to being very UX, UX led. They really wanted to have empathy for the customer and really add value to the customer experience. And this was a challenging search. It was actually a search that we did in the US. Okay, so this is not a Canadian thing. This was a US search. And as a result of this work, I was talking with some pretty epic, cool people in, all of the highest profile consumer brand companies you can imagine. All the brands, you name it. I'm calling in and talking with and having epic conversations with product leaders all over these really super cool companies. And this was a challenging search. And so if you can imagine a challenging search, we finally have this incredible candidate who the client had said, yes, 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 all on the way. Yes, keep it going. Yes, next step. Yes, next step. Yes, okay. And then this candidate gets to the final step. Okay, this is it. Hiring decision is behind door number 1 or 2. Okay. And we had learned in the journey of working with this client for quite a period of time that there was one magical term that the client needed to hear a candidate say to give them the confidence that they were going to be someone to help usher in a delightful user experience, product culture. And the words were consumer experience. So we had in this meeting, we had said to the candidate, okay, as part of your presentation, it's extremely important at this stage in the process that you interweave the words consumer experience into your conversation and presentation. This is really important, okay? Like, I don't know, but it has to sound natural. So, work it into the presentation. One of the most important things about creating a product roadmap is ultimately the consumer experience. Whatever, that's one example. Figure it out. You're paid more than I am. You're a product person. You're working for this global behemoth company. Figure it out and use the word, okay, Heidi, we got it. We're prepped. Consumer experience. Okay, consumer experience. Presentation time. What do you think the candidate did? They didn't use the word consumer experience. And when we followed up, we said, what happened? What happened? And it didn't happen. I know you said, and I tried, and that ended that search. No offer, no door number 2. That was the end of that. Suddenly I'm realizing that's maybe not a crazy story, it's a tragic story. It's actually maybe a tragic ending. But why is this so memorable to me? Well, this is memorable to me because for clients who are hiring, you're hiring a whole person. And a hiring decision should never hinge upon any one small, seemingly inconsequential thing. When the career of an individual demonstrates that what they've been launching is all about consumer experience. So it was really interesting, to grieve that candidate with the client, and then also to grieve the loss of the opportunity with the candidate who was, I don't know what they did after that call, but, realizing I can't believe I didn't say consumer experience. So all of that to say, the journey to your next job, it's going to be exciting and full of unpredictable outcomes. But we're on this together. You on the candidate side, me on the recruitment side, and together working with our clients on the interviewing process. And I'm excited to see what 2020 brings. I believe that this year is still going to be a very good year. And I'm believing that. That's my attitude every morning. And I hope that's your belief and your attitude every morning as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heidi. That was a really great story, and I'm hearing great comments about it. And Andrew, thank you so much. Like, he shared a video from your website regarding the salary insights. So thank you, Andrew, for sharing that. And thank you so much, Heidi, for sharing all the insights that you shared with our audience today. We've never gone over 4 p.m. On our AMAM, but this was the first time. So this was great, a record set. And thank you everyone for joining us today. It was a great experience having you all, and I hope you got a lot of insights from Heidi. And one thing I would like to end on a positive note, I know a lot of us are looking for jobs these days, but what COVID has taught me personally is being patient and being resilient. I think it's really important to do that in the situation we are living right now. And I'm sure there's light at the end of the tunnel, and all of us will get jobs one day in product management. And Heidi, thank you again for joining us.
Follow Product AMA on Twitter and send us your topic suggestions. We look forward to seeing you soon.